certainly 2013 started off in a more difficult way. We had a number of players that had a very restricted pre-season because of off-season surgery or late off-season surgery. And that was guys like Nick Nat, Bo Waters and Daniel Kerr all came back into the start of the season underdone. And I think that really got the ball rolling for us in terms of being busy in the physio department.
Sends it long down towards full forward. Nat-Nui! Oh, Nat-Nui held all week.
I think Nick's enjoying his off-season break out at Midland. And I think sometimes he's going to John Forrest National Park for his holidays because he's chosen, and probably smartly so, not to travel given the issues that he's had with his groin this year. So Nick's now running and has been running for on ground for the last week. He had 6 weeks on the Alter G, which is our anti-gravity treadmill, prior to him commencing on ground. And this was following 2 weeks of not running when we decided that Nick was too sore to keep playing for the rest of this season.
He can run inside the 50, needs it to sit. Now hot on his hammer is Waters, and Waters has got him dead to rights.
Bo certainly had a number of issues throughout the year and a number of injuries. And it got to a point where he dislocated his shoulder, and the decision was made to repair that dislocation. And once we'd made that call, we knew that he was sort of 6 weeks no running and probably about 16 weeks before he was going to return to contact training. So within that time frame, we decided that we'd do a little bit of work on his hip as well that had given him bother also throughout the year. And those two programs now tie in with each other, and both should be back running by the end of September, and won't be far off joining in pre-season training with everyone else.
55 directly in front, absolutely no wind out there today. Hearn we know can go, but he's going to have to kick at 70, and he just about has. In fact, he's kicked at 75.
Shannon had a very unusual injury. His the tendons at the back of his ankle actually dislocated when he was running out onto the ground, and despite our best efforts to keep him in place, he was unable to return to play. And as a consequence of that, he had surgery to reinforce that area and have the tendons basically now stay in place. And so Shannon's program was always going to be touch and go to get back this year. He at best may have been up and going for a prelim final if we had have got that far. So we just planned his program to fit around that, and as I said, if we had gone deeper into the finals, we might have seen him back in action.
Lovely floating mark taken by McGovern again.
I think poor old Turbo had battled some groin pain throughout most of last year, and probably for about half of this year. It also, was still playing football and getting through, but was pulling up sore afterwards. And again, after a lot of consultation, decided that trying to get a good pre-season into Jeremy was very important. And as a consequence, he had hip surgery just to clean up a little bit of a tear in his hip joint. And then, unfortunately for him, also required a double hernia operation, which I don't think made him too happy.
Critis, Shuey, Kennedy, back to Shuey, runs inside 50, and they are motoring the West Coast Eagles.
When you have a recurrent injury, we tend to be a bit more conservative then with trying to get him back. So even at the end of the year, we looked at all his tests that we do, and he was pretty much right to go. The fact, as you alluded to, that he'd only played one game and a bit in sort of a 10-week block meant that trying to rush him back into an AFL game for the last game of the year probably carried more risk than it did reward. So the decision there was made to keep him out for the game and just let him concentrate on, again, getting into a normal routine, a normal running program.
It's close to going out. Zungu, good body stuff.
Has that hurt the body of Leclerc?
Yeah, I don't want to give Leclerc a big head, but yes, the Frenchman was very tough this year. Obviously started with the fractured arm and had plates in that, and returned to play at around about 4 weeks after he'd had that particular injury, and so carried a lot of arm soreness throughout the year. About 8 weeks before the season ended, he had an an injury to his knee, not to his reconstructed knee, fortunately, but just pinched something in the back of his knee. I think it was against Essendon. And so he then carried that. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back was that he had those fractured ribs, I think also against Essendon. And really, was quite brave in actually being able to push through the rest of that game. And I think he kicked a number of goals after he'd had that injury. But when we weighed all that up, to try and get him up for the last couple of games of the year was going to be near impossible.